When Mike got home, he felt like a werewolf in the dark, about to flick on the lights only to find his phone eerily silent. Someone had turned his home into a place. Mike quickly whipped out the gun he took from the stalker, only to step into a place that looked like an art student's worst nightmare. Graffiti everywhere, and a clown doll that left him. The note read, "I will die like my dad." Mike chuckled but lost patience and called the police, only to find CRF meddling. Just then, Mike spotted someone outside, mistaking for aliens, but it was his brother. His brother looked nervous, urging Mike to leave as he sensed something was wrong. Mike quickly pulled the plug on the car's Big Brother program, and realized he had been sucked into a real-life "do you want to play our game" scenario. Clueless about what the crazes at CRF wanted, the car suddenly exploded like it was in a superhero movie. Mike, not believing his luck, pulled over. As Mike prepared to call for help, he found his phone had poor signal, forcing him to ask his brother for repair tools. Suddenly, the glove compartment spat out the RF keys. His brother asked, "Are you a CRF?" Mike looked bewildered, like a wrung duckling. Mike was utterly confused, while his brother was obsessed with an invisible megaphone in his mind. The two argued and parted ways, but when Mike took a cab, he realized his driver had a knack for magic, totally ignoring the way home. Mike shouted at the driver to stop, feeling like he was in a horror movie, and even offered double fare, but it was like throwing candy at a bouncer. Suddenly, the driver ninja-like jumped out, leaving Mike stunned. Stuck in the backseat, Mike couldn't open the door, just watching the car bolt towards danger like a wild horse. The car splashed into the water like a drowning otter, and in a panic, Mike rummaged through his clothes and found his CRS tool, managing to open the door just in time. He floated up and thankfully lived to tell the tale, immediately heading to CRS headquarters with the police the next day. But when they arrived, Mike was stunned. The CRS headquarters was completely deserted, like after a party. The police found that CRS had no registration, like a ghost company totally blank on the lead front. Regarding Mike's bizarre deal, police said no casualties, will continue investigating, and Mike knew they'd uncover little. So he ran into that waitress, Laura, hoping to get a clue, but she played dumb like a startled deer, saying she didn't know anything. Laura went to change, leaving Mike alone at her place. He noticed the lamp puffing white smoke, and found a tag teasing on the bulbs. He burnt his hand almost. He rushed to the sink to wash it off, only to find the faucet drier than a desert, and the fridge emptier than his wallet. It didn't look like anyone lived there. The drawers were empty, and the table photos a collage, hinting Laura's a secret museum curator. This tipped Mike off that Laura was lying. He grabbed the collage and grilled her, and she finally admitted that she was a victim too. But Mike wasn't having any of it. He was sick of their dull pranks and smashed the camera with a metal rod, sending Laura into a panic like a cat that just caught a thief. Little did he know, things were spiraling out of control. Men in black stormed in like aliens, unleashing mayhem on the house. Laura dragged Mike out the back door, and the men in black were like ants on a hot stove, chasing them down. Luckily, they hopped into a car and barely escaped the men in black, and Mike realized this was no longer a simple game. There was definitely a plot behind this, even though Laura claimed she was just a hired hand. She knew the target was cash. The test Mike took before the game became a dark data heist, collecting customer info like a black market circus. Realizing the gravity, Mike rushed to call the bank to check on his account. "Let me give you my password first." The bank told him that all his money had vanished without a trace, like a magician's trick. Mike could hardly believe it. This was a nightmare, and he called the cops and then his lawyer, sharing he was being hunted by CRS. But very shortly thereafter, Mike received a call from his lawyer, informing him that the money in the account had inexplicably vanished without a trace too. "Are there so many surprises today?" Laura guessed the lawyer was bribed by the men in black, advising Mike to keep their hideout secret. Mike couldn't make sense of it, and suddenly everything went fuzzy. He realized he had been played. Soon he fell, realizing Laura had drugged him to reveal she was CRS insider. Turns out they were just after Mike's password. His lawyer hadn't betrayed him after all. But now that Mike knew the truth, it was too late. Woke up in a pit in Mexico, having plummeted from millionaire to homeless. Mike had no choice but to head to the embassy for help, but with no passport or ID, he felt like a lost. The embassy staff were totally skeptical and mocked. How could you get robbed with a fancy watch still on your wrist? They refused to send Mike back home, so he ended up pawning his birthday gift from Dad and took a ride to a motel by the US border. Mike begged the good-hearted folks around with his last few bucks and finally made it back to San Francisco with some help. When Mike got home, he discovered his house had been auctioned off like last year's fashion trends. Mike climbed in through the wall for a memorable day. Next day, he had lost coins and a gun in books. He went to his brother's usual hotel for help, only to learn he was in a mental hospital. Mike finally understood why his wife left. He just needed to borrow her car to figure out who took everything from him. Just then, seeing Old White on TV, Mike decided to find a breakthrough with him to expose the culprit. He remembered Old White's favorite restaurant and began tracking him down. Finally, he found Old White's name in a framed pic on the wall, while the guy had no clue he was facing a lethal threat.